and welcome to my channel Beat Slavery with Racha. My name is Racha and this is the third video. If you missed the two other ones, please go back and check them out so that you can be on track. Today I will be talking more about what human trafficking is through talking about the myths and misconceptions related to this crime. I will be talking about 13 of them and explaining what are the truths actually about this crime. So myth 1, human trafficking victims are only foreign-born and those who are poor. The fact is, human trafficking victims can be of any age, race, gender, or nationality. They may come from any socioeconomic group. They can belong to any society and community. I myself was going to be a victim of human trafficking, so this does not exclude or is only exclusive to a group of people. Myth 2, human trafficking happens only across borders. In fact, the crime of human trafficking does not require any movement whatsoever. Survivors can be recruited and trafficked in their own home, in their own hometowns, and even in their own houses. The third myth is, and this is a very big one where a lot of people mix between these two crimes, human trafficking and human smuggling are the same. They are not. Human trafficking is not the same as smuggling because trafficking is based on exploitation and it does not require movement across borders. However, on the other hand, smuggling is based on movement and it involves moving a person across a country's border with that person's consent in violation of immigration laws and the country's laws. So smuggling is very different from human trafficking, and human smuggling can actually turn into trafficking if the smuggler uses force, fraud, or coercion to hold people against their will for the purpose of labor or sexual exploitation. The third one, which is also a very common one, victims of human trafficking will seek help, especially when they're in public. A lot of us would think, yeah, when you're in public, and a victim is in public, she might run to you and say, please help me. That's not true. Human trafficking is often a hidden crime. Victims may be afraid to come forward and get help. They may be forced or coerced through threats or violence. They may fear retribution from traffickers. That could include danger to their families. They may be not even they may not even be in possession or have any control of their identification documents, and that's why they do not really have the power to come and seek help in public when even they come across and cross paths with police officers. Myth 5, traffickers target victims they do not know. That's a very big misconception because the reality is many survivors have been trafficked by romantic partners or by people they knew, including spouses and family members and parents. The sixth myth, the victims are women only. That is not true because men and boys are also victims, but it's harder to identify men, especially in cases of sexual exploitation. The seventh myth, trafficking is only sex trafficking, and this one is also really very big. Every time I talk about human trafficking, people switch the word human into sex trafficking, and that's not correct. Human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to get another person to provide labor or commercial sex, or to be in a situation that's similar to slavery-like practices, which I will explain in another video. So worldwide, experts believe that there are more situations of labor trafficking than of sex trafficking, but it doesn't come to people's attention. However, there's much wider awareness of sex trafficking in the United States and other places than of labor trafficking all around the world. The eighth myth, foreign trafficking victims are illegal immigrants or exist without legal status. That is not true because any legal immigrant could be trafficked. The ninth, human trafficking only happens in illegal or underground industries. That is not true. The reality is human trafficking can be depicted and it could be reported in industries including restaurants, cleaning services, constructions, factories, and so on, you name it. The 10th, people being trafficked are physically unable to leave their situations because they're locked in and they're held against their will. And this actually complements the other one. And the reality is that is not true, because sometimes, in certain cases, and more often, however, people in trafficking situations stay for reasons that are more complicated. Some lack the basic necessities to physically actually get out, such as transportation or a safe place to live in. Some are afraid for their safety or the safety of these they love, like their family. Or some have been so effectively manipulated that they do not identify at that point that they're actually being trafficked and that they are under the control of another person. Number 11, labor trafficking is only or primarily a problem in developing countries. That is not true, because labor trafficking occurs also in developed countries like the United States and in Europe, in Australia, in Canada, and in other parts of the world. But it is reported at lower rates than sex trafficking, and that's why we do not really see it that much in public. Number 12, all commercial sex is human trafficking. That's wrong, because all commercial sex involving a minor is legally considered human trafficking, but commercial sex involving an adult is human trafficking only if that person providing the commercial sex is doing so against their will and as a result of force, fraud, or coercion. And then the last myth, which is also related to this, that minors could be prostitutes. Sometimes you would come across some media articles where they say minor prostitute, because all minors are trafficked if they're held, if they're found in a situation of commercial sexual sexual situation. So by this we come to the end of our video. If you have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A section below, and I will see you tomorrow for another video, so stay tuned.